What up guys, Holderheck back with another video. I made a PvP BIS guide for Phase 1 a little bit ago, and a lot of that stuff is pretty relevant still, but with Dire Maul releasing and giving us some new access to items, and with Molten Core being available to more and more people every day, I just wanted to revise the PvP gear, make a quick list of stuff that you should probably try to acquire moving into Phase 2, give you some one-hander options, some two-hander options, tell you why I made these decisions, and from there, we can all go and demolish people in the fantastical wonderland of Phase 2. So we're just gonna go like I do most of my gearing lists. We're just gonna go right down the side here. I'm gonna tell you why I picked this enchant, maybe a possible side grade you can have. Cool, let's go. So we're gonna start with the Crown of Destruction, guys. If you are able, okay, if you are able to get into Molten Core and you're able to kill Ragnaros, the Crown of Destruction is our PvE, PvP, BIS forever, for the entire game. You literally never replace this item, okay? It's got 23 stamina, it's got 2 crit, 44 attack power. This thing is just optimal in like literally every single way. It's even got intellect, guys. It's even got intellect. Somebody at Blizzard, one person ever, actually knew how to itemize this class, and whoever that person was, thank you. Thank you for the Crown of Destruction. Even if you probably made it for hunters, but let's be real, hunters, okay? Now, if you can't get a Crown of Destruction, I highly recommend you get a Crown of Tyranny. Almost the same amount of stamina, almost the same amount of attack power, one less critical strike, right? It's pretty good. Now, you're gonna notice, in my PvP sets, I don't recommend you wear any leather, okay? It's just a personal kind of thing with me. I feel like we have the ability to wear mail. It gives us very decent, you know, melee damage reduction. So just try not to wear leather, okay? You could go with Eye of Ren to do a little bit more damage than the Crown of Tyranny, but I would go with the Crown of Tyranny if you do not have access to the Crown of Destruction, okay? Onyxia Tooth Pendant. Now, you kill Onyxia, you get her head. This thing is fantastic. It's got stamina, it's got like almost 1.5 crit. You got some hit in there, which you kind of need for PvP. It's really like the BIS PvP neck for a very, very long time. If you do not have access to the Onyxia Tooth Pendant, I talked about this in the last video, you could get the Mark of Fordring to basically do the same amount of DPS, but you don't have any stamina, and not having stamina is really, really, really suboptimal for PvP, okay? Your options would be the Imperial Jewel, more attack power, no crit, a little bit of stamina, or you can go in like the opposite direction and get the Ember Fury Talisman, which is crit, but no attack power, basically the same amount of stamina, and the fire resistance is like, meh. So, you got some options. Ember Fury, maybe Imperial Jewel, Mark of Fordring if you're feeling really froggy, but we're going for BIS here, so Onyxia Tooth Pendant. Black Dragon Scale Shoulders. These things don't have a ton of stamina, but they do have a ton of attack power, and they are mail. You do not need True Strike Shoulders in PvP. True Strike Shoulders as an item are fucking garbage, okay? The only reason people wear them is because they have hit. If you don't need that 2% hit, they are minimal armor, minimal attack power, and like fundamentally worthless. So try not to wear them unless you absolutely have to. Black Dragon Scale is going to be the way to go for the armor, for the stamina, for the attack power. If you absolutely have to wear leather, something like Death's Clutch would be okay, since it's a, you know, that stat spread. Something like Flame Scarred would be okay because of that stat spread, but I just don't recommend wearing leather in PvP. It's really not going to be good for you. A good side grade to these, if you wanted more crit as opposed to attack power, even though the math doesn't work out quite as well, you could get the Stratholme Militia, that's a world drop, or you can get the Bone Golem Shoulders from Rattlegore in Scholomance. But I would recommend Black Dragon Scale, okay? Cloak of the Shrouded Mists. If you kill Ragnaros and you can get this item, it's not heavily sought after. Rogues might go after this because of the agility, but that's a ton of stamina. Really, really good agility, and you have to think of agility too. Agility is not just a DPS stat; it's a tanking stat. It's a melee DPS mitigation stat. That's going to give you a ton of dodge. So it's dodge, crit, stamina, and fire resistance. You're not going to have to deal with nature resistance, so let's just ignore that, okay? If you can't get a Cloak of the Shrouded Mists, get a Stone Skin Gargoyle Cloak. Still good stamina, and you got some DPS stats. Beyond that, it's really not good tanking cloaks. You could wear Black Baron, but again, a little bit of dodge, no stamina, I wouldn't do it. Cool? Cool. Let's just talk about Savage Gladiator really quick, okay? Savage Gladiator is so incredible. Like, I believe I have been on the jock of Savage Gladiator for literally ever. If you can get Savage Gladiator, get Savage Gladiator. Decent stamina, decent agility, 2 crit. There is nothing that replaces this thing whatsoever. Not even close. Not even close. Breastplate of Bloodthirst is somewhat close. Okay, I lied. It's somewhat close. But, okay, caveat, it's leather, so we're not going to wear it. Cool? If you can't get Savage Gladiator Chain because, well, you don't want to run, you know, BRD Arena 500 times in a row, you can get the Ogre Forged Tuberk. That's pretty good. You have your stat spread, you have your stamina. If I did not have Savage Gladiator Chain, I would wear Ogre Forged in a heartbeat. Moving on. We're going to have the Wrist Guards of True Flight. Again, if you're in Molten Core, if you can get access to these things, good stamina, good crit, good dodge, and that plus hit you need, because we got to get the 5% hit in PvP. These are optimal for PvP, in my opinion. If you do not have access to Major Domo and you can't get them, Slash Claw are pretty good. Bracers of the Eclipse are leather, so we're not going to wear those. Black Mist are leather, so we're not going to wear those. I would actually recommend, and I don't even know where they are on this thing, probably not going to be very high, Demon Howl. Demon Howl Wrist Guards, look at that stamina. I have a pair of these. I have them enchanted with plus stamina just to make me even more tanky. If you want to have a complete tank set, I would also like to say all these enchants that say plus 8 strength, like on your head and your legs, if your main focus is PvP, you may actually want to just go plus 100 HP on those instead of strength. But strength is a nice mix of killing people, right? As opposed to taking more damage. Like maybe having 200 extra health will save you, but in my opinion, having a little bit more attack power and just wearing tankier items is the way to go. Now, with the Demon Howl Wrist Guards that I was talking about, there's not very much attack power on these things at all, so just stack the stamina. Use them as a stamina piece and have them as backups. But if you don't have those, Wrist Guards of True Flight, put some strength on those for attack power and move on. Now, your optimal two-hander for Phase 2, barring rag weapons and the Eye of Sulphurus and the rag hammer. I've talked about the Earthshaker a million times. It was on my top 10 PvP weapons in Phase 1 or whatever video. The Earthshaker is a game changer of a weapon. You can get it early in Molten Core. It procs incessantly. You can win in team fights solely because of this mace. It still hits really, really hard for this phase. I cannot recommend it enough. If you are not in Molten Core, I would recommend you get, for PvP, the Slave Driver's Cane. Slave Driver's Cane for PvP hits like an astronomical truck. Boom! It's so amazing. It is slept on. Nobody else is going to want it. You should get this weapon, okay? And if you can't get the Slave Driver's Cane, then obviously we go back to the Dreadforge Retaliator, but it really doesn't hit as hard as the Slave Driver's Cane. If you are in Molten Core and you do not have access to the Earthshaker because it is not dropping, Finkel's Lava Dredger is also a slept-on PvP weapon. Look at that stamina, look at that intellect. The fire resistance is negligible. Maybe you can, deal with immolation or something a little bit better. But this thing, 67 DPS, it's a little fast for PvP, but it still hits really hard, and you get 250 health from this thing, let alone all the intellect you're getting from this thing to add to your mana pool for more shocks. Either Earthshaker or Finkel's if you can. If you can't, then we're going to go with Slave Drivers or Dreadforge, okay? Let's go to the other side. Bloodmail Gauntlets, also slept on. Everybody chooses, Devilsaur, Gargoyle Slashers. Yes, Devilsaur and Gargoyle Slashers are better strictly DPS items. But PvP is not about DPS necessarily. You have to think about mitigation and stamina and having a stat spread as a hybrid class, as a shaman. You have to be able to shock. You have to be able to use lightning shield. You have to be able to purge. You can't just stack agility, stamina, and strength and expect to be useful after 10 seconds, because you're just not going to be. And maybe most fights won't last longer than 10 seconds for you, but the grand majority of them will, okay? So, we have our Bloodmail Gauntlets, 10 stamina, 10 intellect, 10 strength, and 1 crit. That seems like a pretty good item to me. Oh, and it's mail, so you have more physical mitigation. Throw 7 strength on it. Now, this gear needs help with crit. The only big crit items we have are the Crown and Savage Gladiator Chain, okay? We're gonna throw on Warpwood Binding to get another almost 2 crit, right? You still have stamina, you still have int. A good side grade, if you can't get that thing or it's not dropping for you, in my opinion, is always the Bloodmail Belt. Nobody likes the Bloodmail Belt but me, and I just like it, man. Stamina, intellect, agility, strength. It's fantastic. It's every stat we need, right? And then you know what? You can get +3 defense. +3 defense is not going to do anything. I think maybe if you got up to like +10 defense, you might start seeing some sort of difference against melee characters. But whatever, it's a set bonus and it's there. But let's just ignore that. Let's not worry about it. Let's get Warpwood. Let's get crit. Cool. Savage Gladiator leggings, 19 stamina, 18 agility, 12 strength. They're great. They're just great pants. You know what's better than Savage Gladiator? You could get the Laggards of the Chromatic Defiler for tons of crit, good stamina, tons of dodge. Look at all those resistances. If you want to go through the quest to get these things, get the Chromatic Carapace and all the Chromatic Carapace and all the scales and make these, then great. You can get these, they're better. But if you're not going to do that, because I'm not going to do that, get Savage Gladiator leggings. They're really, really good. Finally, you're going to get the Sabatons of the Flamewalker. These things drop a decent amount in Molten Core. Look at all that stamina. There's no crit, but look at all that stamina, right? And you're going to throw minor speed on these things because you're going to throw minor speed on any PvP boots you own, right? Yes, you are, because plus agility doesn't mean anything. Now, if you're not in Molten Core and you don't have access to these, we're either going to go Savage Gladiator Greaves or we're going to go Bloodmail Boots. Either one of these will serve you well. If you want a little bit more intellect, you can go Bloodmail. If you want a little bit better DPS stats, you can go Savage Gladiator. I would personally use Savage Gladiator because you don't need the hit, but, you know, either one's going to be fine for you. But make sure you put minor speed on them, okay? Now, 2 rings. These rings are going to increase your life by a ton. We got Band of the Ogre King. This is from Dire Maul. 13 stamina, 14 strength. You know, it's like a decent amount of attack power and no crit, whatever. We're wearing it for the stamina. And then you have Band of Flesh. Ton of stamina, a little bit of strength, a little bit of agility. But these rings are basically just here to make your health pool higher. Okay, anything else they do, it's a secondary benefit. Now, move on to your trinkets. If you're an engineer, then you can put engineering trinkets in here. They're not going to be listed on the website as like anything that's worthful. You know, you have like the Bear of Peasant Collar, that can win a fight for you. Cannonball Runner, that's really good for fighting big groups of people. You know, the Heart of the Scale, if you get this thing, equip it, it's going to really hurt like rogues with daggers because they're going to be hurting themselves. Your trinkets, I'll leave up to you. Just in general, DPS trinkets are okay. Moving into Phase 2, once you get the rank for it as well, you're going to want to use the PvP trinket to get out of, you know, crowd control. I would recommend maybe Hand of Justice, replacing Hand of Justice with that one, because 2% crit's still pretty good, especially in this gear, which doesn't have any crit, right? Cool. So that's your basic two-hander gear for Phase 2, right? Let me just quickly talk about what you would do with a one-hander. Now, I like Bone Slicing Hatchet mainly because you get that agility and that stamina. So you get dodge on top of stamina, so it's a mitigation weapon as opposed to a DPS weapon. Because the only time you're really going to be using a one-hander is, as I've said before, against rogues and warriors and maybe sometimes hunters. And you're only really wearing that one-hander to get close to them, and then you're going to switch to your two-hander when you're fighting the hunters. Now, Bone Slicing Hatchet, put Fiery on it. Fire is going to help get through the armor if the warrior doesn't disarm you. If they disarm you with a one-hander, like, great, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And then you're going to get the Dreadguard's Protector, which is dropping from the boss that warlocks summon in Dire Maul to get their mount, right? So if there's any warlock going to Dire Maul to get their mount, try to grab the Dreadguard's Protector off that boss. They're obviously not going to want it. If you don't do that thing and you don't want, you know, to deal with going to Dire Maul to get that thing, there's a shield that drops in Scholomance that's pretty good. I don't know why it's not coming up here. Maybe it doesn't actually think it's that good, but I think it's really good. Whatever. I'll find it later. Anyway, there's a shield that drops in Scholomance off of Rattlegore that's really good. And there's also the Sacred Protector, which is a quest in the Plague Lands, which is really good. You basically just want to have high armor, decent block, some stamina, and maybe some intellect if you just want to get a random shield. I like Dreadguard's Protector because it's got strength. And if we're trying to do a little bit of damage with this one-hander, the strength helps, right? Cool. Last thing we're going to touch on here, and I'm trying to go through this as fast as possible, we're just going to talk about the basic blue PvP set, right? So I left everything here the same, except I equipped the blue PvP set. This set, in general, just kinda sucks. The epic one is okay. It fixes a lot of the problems with this blue one, but this blue set, in general, is more of an elemental set than it is an enhancement set. Now, if there's one singular piece you should probably wear in this set, it's going to be the boots, because it increases your Ghost Wolf speed by 15%, and it has strength at least, right? Decent stamina, decent intellect, whatever. Everything else, it's more of an elemental set, and if you want to make the argument that it is an enhancement set, you could use it for duels fairly well, because it does boost your spell power and your spell crit, which again is good. We're not just hitting things, we are casting spells, but it has like next to no melee stats whatsoever other than like 1 or 2 melee crit and some strength here and there. I honestly wouldn't recommend wearing most of it if you have access to any of the things listed on these sets, but the epic set's actually really good, but there's really not a point of talking about the epic set right now because it's going to take people at least 2 months to get to that epic set, okay? Thanks for making it to the end of another video. I hope that this, updated phase 1.5 going into 2.0 PvP video was helpful for everybody. People keep asking what I'm wearing and what I'm going to be wearing in phase 2, so, I don't make lists, I make videos. So here's your video. You got any questions, comments, likes, dislikes, you know what to do. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me how much you love or hate me in the comments below. Hit that bell if you want to see more of these videos. And follow me on Twitch. Man, the other night when I streamed getting this Hand of Ragnaros, I gotta thank my boys Ryson and Coop from Get a Fenris for gifting people like 20 subscriptions that night. It was like completely insane. Thanks, guys. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/theholderheck. Let's kill some Alliance. Let's win Fury some kids. I'll talk to everybody later. You have a fantastical rest of your day. Bye-bye.